Cultural genocide. What comes to your mind when you hear these two words? I'm sure most of you would think of Nazi Germany and the Jews, or China and the Uyghurs, or Myanmar and the Rohingyas. What about Canada, the beacon of multiculturalism? Why don't we ever think of Canada? This is a country where a cultural genocide of indigenous population went on till the 1990s, where indigenous children were separated from their families and subjected to forced assimilation at residential schools. Do you know how many children died in this genocide? 6,000. What's the proof, you may ask? And we will tell you about mass graves that continue to be unearthed to this day. The latest case is from British Columbia, where the remains of 215 children have been discovered buried on the grounds of a former indigenous school. 215 children, some of them as young as 3 years old. It's a heartbreaking discovery and a grim reminder of Canada's shameful history. Who were these children? Who operated the school? And where does the accountability lie? With the Canadian government or the Catholic Church? Our next report explores.
This is the Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. On the exterior, it looks like any other school. But it operated like a re-education camp for indigenous children. The horrors that unfolded within its walls have been documented in several reports. The first proof has emerged 4 decades later. The remains of 215 children have been found buried on the school's grounds. They were discovered with the help of a ground-penetrating radar device. The discovery has confirmed that the school was the site of a cultural genocide. Authorities say more bodies may be found in the days to come.
What I've heard from many of them is the fact that, the ones that they know were missing and never came back, were told that they ran away. So that still haunts. And, a lot of those triggers have popped up with this year find of 215 children.
Tributes are pouring in at the school's gates. Mourners are holding vigils in the honor of the dead. They say Canada must excavate indigenous schools across the country to discover the extent of the trauma and to give closure to the families who were told that their children had run away.
Certainly no surprise at all. Everybody in the First Nations community knew that there were mass graves. We've been calling it for years. We've been telling the government for years that there are mass graves in every single residential school, but they didn't listen to us.
Back in Canada's capital, Ottawa, all flags on federal buildings are flying at half-mast, including the Peace Tower flag above the Canadian Parliament. The Prime Minister of Canada says the news breaks his heart. He says the discovery is a painful reminder of Canada's dark history. But Canadian lawmakers say expressing remorse won't be enough. They want the government to pay damages to the families who had suffered. Kamloops was just one of the many state-funded Christian schools, operated jointly by the Canadian government and the Catholic Church. The job of these schools was to assimilate indigenous children by converting them to Christianity and not allowing them to speak native languages. This was often done through verbal and physical abuse. An inquiry commission report into the matter found that 150,000 Aboriginal children were separated from their families, and nearly 6,000 children were killed in this cultural genocide. In 2008, the Canadian government apologized in Parliament for these crimes.
Infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child. Today we recognize that this policy of assimilation was wrong, has caused great harm, and has no place in our country.
Then, in 2018, the Catholic Church was asked for a formal apology, but the request was rejected by Pope Francis himself, who worried that an apology may invite potential damages too. Bureau Report, WION. World is one.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.